Hello. So, um, I saw this story going around, and um, it seemed like an important story, um, and it seemed like something a lot of people were interested in. Um, at the same time, I thought that there isn't a lot of sensible talk about what was going on. Um, so, just maybe to give a point of view on it. I was hoping that some of the other counseling students would be able to join and talk about this, but unfortunately, nobody else was. Um, and I definitely wanted I wanted people who actually had something useful to say as opposed to just people screaming on the internet. So, excuse me, there are obviously a lot of articles. The Daily Mail did an article on this. Um, excuse me, the parents have have made a lot of information public about this. They have a online fundraiser, which at this point has raised almost $10,000. Um, Large YouTube accounts, including Libs of TikTok, have been um, furiously tweeting about this. So, just to kind of explain what's going on, um, this case is in Montana, and yeah, just lurkers. I don't know if this is too hot to handle, and that's why people don't want to talk about it, or um, I don't know. I It seems like this is the type of situation in which um, sanity would be good. This seems like, I mean, so I'll just read some of this article from the Montana Free Press, which is I picked it because it has um, Yosef says, I have no expertise or knowledge, and not being on Twitter, didn't hear about it until you posted. Um, um, well, yeah, if people want to join, here is the link. So I picked this article because it is presenting it from the most left wing view I could find. Um, so Gianforte rebuts far right accusations about child protection case. Now, obviously, Montana is a very red state, as is Wyoming, and that's that's what first. So I first saw this being referred to when Chris Rufo um, replied to um, Governor Gianforte's thread responding to the publicity about this case. Um, and basically, what the governor said was, hey, everything's going fine, chill. And both Chris Rufo and Libs of TikTok were incredulous and seemed um, to want him to do something more. And so I started looking into it, and there's quite a bit of information. The parents have actually released private medical records. Um, they've talked about it publicly, quite publicly, to the point where the family court has put an injunction on them, a gag order, which they are defying in order to get international pressure on this. And um, yeah, so here, I'll read what this article is saying. After anti transgender accounts fanned an online firestorm over the confidential case, the Republican governor said state child protection workers acted appropriately. And the more I read about this, the more I see it seems to me that, in fact, the governor is right. And this is a horrible case for the right wing to try to seize upon, um, because it there seems to be um, a lot of knee jerk reaction here. Um, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte is defending the state health department's actions in an active child protective case against a wave of online criticism from conservative groups, including some far-right anti-LGBTQ social media accounts, and unusually public commentary from the state's highest elected official about confidential child welfare proceedings. Now, they are um, they are stressing the confidential nature of this um, proceeding. Obviously, the um, the parents have waived confidentiality, and the parents are the ones who are calling for attention to this. And my criticism of the way the state is handling it, first and foremost, is, look, when a parent decides to waive confidentiality, um, my reaction would have been, um, we are willing to waive confidentiality and discuss this case with anybody that the parents wish to have this discussed with. And if the parents give a release of information to reporters, then we will go ahead and discuss the case with reporters. And while that may or may not be in the best interest of the child, um, frankly, I would let the child advocate. I mean, that there is a point at which there's the parents, and maybe the child advocate could. I mean, first you have to appoint a child advocate, right? And I think people don't really realize how convoluted the process is. I mean, obviously, um, I have a lot of criticisms, because I have a lot of criticisms of everything. I have a lot of criticisms of how things are done, but generally, DCFS is not run by crazy people. So DCFS is what we call it here in California. I believe that that's what it's called in Montana, the Department of Child and Family Services. Um, And Child Protective Services, or CPS, where I think in New York it's called CPS, Child Protective Services, right? We need to be able to have confidence, especially in our local um, governments, and um, CFS or CPS. At least here in California, it really is county to county. As far as I know, in most places, it's very county to county. At the very least, it's state. It's certainly not, as far as I know, in any way federally regulated. Uh, and this claim that, I mean, there seems to be this claim that the um, government in Montana and Wyoming are really woke. And I realize that there are people who have this fear, and yes, there is, so, I mean, obviously people who get into social work, especially with the horrible state of the um, schools of social work and the National Association of Social Workers, which I certainly believe needs to be reformed and bettered so that people have more confidence. This seems like an overreaction. Rocco says, this is an issue I've had with the right as well, so reactionary. So what you're saying is that they shouldn't have opened the LARP gate. um, I'm not sure who you mean by the LARP gate, but I mean, the parents here, just from reading, and I tried to do a lot of reading. There is a lot of information available, which the parents have made available. And from reading what the parents themselves have made available, it seems quite clear to me that the parents are a little bit authoritarian. Um, they seem a little paranoid about the transitioning of their child. They agree, they themselves claim that their child is pretty defiant and rebellious. And I mean, what do you do to a parent who, what does a rebellious child do to a parent? Like, this is oppositional defiant disorder behavior. Although I have to say, frankly, I was looking at the diagnostic criteria, and I'm not sure this would even be a mild case of it, because apparently she, 14-year-old who now wants to be called he, um, had a job which the parents were forcing her um, to resign from. So it sounds like it's like a functioning person. They also mentioned that she, while not being popular and having been bullied, is a smart kid who does well at school. So, I mean, frankly, I don't even see the child being very defiant and oppositional, and I mean, the diagnostic criteria say it manifests under the age of 8, and in multiple situations. Just with all the warnings, obviously, I'm not licensed. Da, 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 da. I haven't met this person, but treating this as a case study from the information that's available, it seems like this child is basically being a rebellious child. Guess what? 14-year-old, rebellious 14-year-old. Oh, wow. And the child appears to have some serious problems, which seem to go to issues with the family. And from everything I have seen, which only the things that the parents have been releasing have been out in the information. So like they're not even releasing. I mean, when you look at the arguments, Child Protective Services seems to be just doing their job. I mean, one of the things. So in this article, um, the mother talks about speaking to the doctor. Um, they called and told us that a bed had opened up in Wyoming and that Jennifer needed to go. The doctor said she has to go. She's not doing any good here. And we were really blown away, Krista recounts. No one talked to us about the name of the facility. We had no one to answer our questions. We told them that we wanted our questions answered before we accepted the bed. So this is a child that's in a locked emergency ward, and they were, what you do with a child who is in a locked ward, what you do with anybody who's in a locked ward, child or adult, is you transfer them to a more non-emergency. Like the emergency ward is the emergency room, right? That's it. There's basically no treatment there. It's like a holding cell, and it's a pretty bad situation. I got into a Twitter fight with an anonymous troll who claimed to have worked in psych wards and kept on asking me. Well, didn't keep on. We started talking. I'm like, "Hello, you don't sound like you actually know anything about psych wards." And she's like, where did you work and what's your occupation? And I'm like, hey, this is my real name. You can Google me. You can get all my information. I'm all out here. What's your information? And she of course blocked me. If it was a she, I mean, it was an anonymous troll account. But was claiming, oh, there's no difference between a long-term locked ward and an emergency locked ward. Hello? And claimed that the only difference is a change of scenery. No, like emergency locked wards, at least the ones that I've seen, don't even have windows, right? Because it's not long term, and it's for this is also all very unfortunate, also misfortunate. Yeah, I mean, when you read about the history of this child, it's obviously this child wasn't doing well, right? And she's in a locked emergency ward, and they tell the parents, okay, these are the various places that she can be transferred to, none of which had immediate beds, because these places never have immediate beds unless the parents have good insurance. I don't know what the financial situation of the parents is, but it doesn't appear to be very well, because they have a public defender as opposed to a legal counsel and stuff like that, and they're doing their fundraisers. So I don't think they have private insurance, so they're relying on state mental health care. The false narrative of current psych does her no good here either. Yes, I mean the general. I mean, I have to say, the social situation where there's a conflict between the parents and broader society can very much mean that this child is just being consonant with broader society, which is causing conflict with the parents, which isn't good. But at the same time, I have to wonder in Montana, like, how, I mean, we're talking Montana here, a small town in Montana. We're not talking about like somebody who's growing up in, Palo Alto or anything like that. Um, in any case, um, so you have a situation where the child is in a locked right internet, but frankly, I mean, from listening to these parents who are Christian conservative parents who want, are a little bit on the authoritarian side, it seems to me. I wonder how locked down her internet it really was and could have been and maybe should have been. But again, she's 14. And if by the time she's 14, I mean, this is a child who's going to very quickly age out, like, and I have to say, her older brother did, and he's apparently missing and on the streets. Um, like, this child is the identified patient. This is something we talk about in my substance abuse courses, is once you end up with an identified patient, like, it's not like this is a person who lives in a completely perfectly fine environment, and um, they are, even though they are oftentimes the scapegoat, um, and blamed for all of the problems the rest of the family has, they're not actually, they're certainly not the only person who has problems in that family. Um, and so in a locked emergency ward, obviously they want to transfer her to the first available bed um, in a permanent ward. And apparently they said, well, there are all of these facilities. There were like 5 facilities in Montana and a 6th one in Wyoming. And the parents apparently, the stepmother so she's living with her father and stepmother. Her mother lives in Canada, which is part of the whole thing of like people were accusing them of kidnap, like Chris Rufo accused the state of Montana of kidnapping a child and um, and moving them across state lines, if not international lines, to have transition surgery. And it's like, no, this is all in the mind of the the these what it seems to be delusional parents. Because so what happened was the bed that opened up was in Wyoming, and the parents were scared that because Wyoming doesn't have an anti transitioning law like Montana does, that their child was going to be transitioned. Well, first of all, in Montana, the child was being socially transitioned. Well, what does that exactly mean? When you have a psychiatric patient asking you to call them something, right? You generally, like, this is a crisis situation. Like, if I'm talking to somebody who tells me that their name is Napoleon, like, to some extent in therapy there are times when you will go ahead and call the person Napoleon, right? um this is This is a person in a locked ward. You don't argue with them unnecessarily. There are manners in dealing with their mental issues. Um, anyway, so the parents are paranoid that if she gets put in a permanent bed in Wyoming, that there will be transitions even more. Now, it's not like she's being shipped off to California or even Minnesota, where apparently there's a lot of woke people in Minneapolis. It's Wyoming, right? And um, so they refuse the bed. And this is when Child Protective Services goes to court and gets permission to transfer her to Wyoming into the permanent bed. Now, I have to say, as somebody who has seen the inside of locked wards, you like, I would never, ever, ever allow a child to spend an extra night in a locked ward as opposed to in a long-term facility. I mean, in a emergency locked ward as opposed to a long-term facility. It's and yes, I would call it child abuse to leave your child in an emergency locked ward for even one night, but it wasn't even apparently. I mean, we don't know exactly how long until apparently she was in Wyoming for a month before she was transferred back to Montana, right? And these parents were refusing the long-term placement in Wyoming solely because they were worried about some delusional worries that their child was going to be medically transitioned during this short time, which isn't a real thing. Like, this is not an actual thing. The only thing that I have heard that I saw was someone was mentioning she was put on birth control, which honestly might not be a bad idea. And so she's no longer having her period. Again, I'm not sure that's the worst idea in this particular situation. But and one of the things she mentions is the doctor keeps on telling her, well, why aren't you more worried about your child's health than these extraneous concerns that they seem to be bringing up? Here, let me see if I can find. Yeah, here it is. I came one day and she was talking about having top surgery and being non-binary, Krista says, of the aide. She took her complaint to the on-duty doctor, who dismissed her. He told me, why are you not more concerned that your daughter is trying to harm herself than what the aide is talking about? Good question, doctor. Really good question. I agree. And this is from what the parents are releasing, right? And so, and the child was moved back after apparently a month, and was moved back, and before they went public, back to Montana. But there's this continued fight between the parents and Child Protective Services, because they are socially transitioning her, as in allowing her to wear men's clothing, allowing her to cut her hair short, allowing her to be called Leo, apparently is what she wants to be called, allowing her to apparently wear a chest binder, right? Um, Dude, get your kid out of this locked ward and then worry about it, right? Um, but and the parents apparently decided to make a huge deal. Well, Child Protective Services started apparently recommending that she be returned to her birth mother as opposed to her parent, her father and stepmother, because Child Protective Services seems to think that she would be better off with the mother. And frankly, I'm guessing they want to stop paying for, like, their procedure would prefer not to be paying for this very expensive. I mean, locked wards are very expensive. Um, I don't know how much a locked ward is per night, but it's definitely a lot more expensive than any expensive hotel I've ever stayed at. So, how much does a locked ward cost per night? Uh, Depending on facility and the circumstances, it comes out to $1,000 to $2,000 a day. Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right. $1,000 a day, not surprising. Not surprising at all. So, this really seems to be a case of parents causing their kids. $30,000 a month is big money. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, $360,000 a year, right? That's expensive. That's really, really expensive. But when you consider that someone in a locked ward, I mean, these people need to be taken, needs to be supervised 24/7, right? Just imagine running a locked ward. Even if you're paying minimum wage, right? Like, and forget about treatment or anything else, right? You have to have somebody there full time, right? And it doesn't help if you have large numbers of people, because guess what? If you have large numbers of people, you have to have a large numbers of people there with them. These are very expensive things, right? So I'm not so surprised if the state of Montana, might actually prefer that she go live with her mom in Canada than to be in a locked ward in Montana, or potentially using up services in Montana for long term. And who knows what's going to happen when she turns 18, right? So, not at all surprised if they would be much happier with her living with her mother. Yeah, I mean, I think I explained all the basic contours of this situation, but I can certainly tell you that in this situation, the parents are not reading to me as being the most these perfect parents who are actually worried about serious things. Like their relevance realization seems to be severely off. Um, their child is 14, right? This isn't a 7-year-old. This is a 14-year-old, right? And trying to restrict, and which was surprising was they released a picture of the child with pink hair. Um, and the only thing I can imagine is that it was an attempt by the parents to like encourage her to be more effeminate. Um, I don't even know, but it it really seems like this is being caused by the parents. I was very hopeful that some of the other students would also read through um, what's available in public so that it wasn't just my opinion of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, how I see it is this seems like the least objectionable, and there are other um, um, there seem to be other cases that would be more objectionable. But frankly, it seems to me that more transparency in the process and uh, public confidence in child protective services is what we actually need. Um, the fact that so maybe I should read the governor's where's the governor's I did put the governor's tweets in where is it in the description. Yeah, so this is what the governor tweeted. um this is his tweet thread, which has been seen a million times. Um, and obviously not a lot of hearts and lots of comments. Um, to give them their best shot at reaching their full potential, children deserve to grow up happy, healthy, in happy, healthy homes with loving families. So, sadly, this ideal is not always realized. 1 out of 8. Unfortunately, our society finds children whose life, health, and well-being are at serious risk from abuse and neglect, and only as a last resort should they be removed from their home. Upon hearing recent allegations, apparently the parents went on a radio show related to a child welfare case. I asked Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juras, an experienced attorney, constitutional conservative, mother, and grandmother, to review it. And apparently, people don't trust the governor and this lieutenant governor enough to actually believe that they're looking into this and seeing that that the parents are at fault here, which is problematic. Let's put it that way. Consulting with the director of the DPHHS, that's the Department of Public Health and Human Services, and personally examining case documents, Lieutenant Governor Juras has concluded that DPHHS and the courts, the court have followed state policy and law in their handling of this tragic case. I'm not sure that is good enough political signaling. I have asked the Lieutenant Governor to continue monitoring the case as it progresses. Further, Senate Bill 99, which I signed into law in April 2023, prohibits medical and surgical treatments to treat minors with gender dysphoria, and also prohibits the use of taxpayer resources for such treatments. Our administration will continue to advance policies that strengthen our families and protect Montana kids. Um, like that, what we have done to promote adoption and to ban permanent, invasive, life-altering medical procedures on children, like puberty blockers, hormonal treatments, and sex reassignment surgeries. Um, Apparently, I mean, this is what Chris Rufo was um, replying to, and libs of TikTok also. I mean, here are they here? Yeah. So libs of TikTok's response, which has 83,000 views, but see, not the B also answered. So here, incredible that you managed to do a full investigation of the entire case in just a matter of hours. And why did you veto House Bill 37, which would have required Child Protective Services to obtain a judicial warrant before removing children from their homes? Frankly, I mean, I kind of agree that a warrant would be good, but whatever. Not the B, this is a completely inadequate response. We need details as to what's actually happening, not vague references to how great you are on the issues. Well, I mean, and I have to say, uh, they need to have release of information um, release of information policies that are um, for an internet age, because um, let's face it, the parents. I haven't been able to see where this case is from. I mean, it says redox.info, but I tried to find the CFS petition in the case, and I wasn't able to find it. So I don't know. But um, yeah, um, it seems to me that this is the right wing overreacting. Um, and I think it's unfortunate when we overreact in that manner. Um, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's all I had to say about it, unless people want to jump on and discuss it or ask or whatever. But Trey says, "Wow, I didn't think you would have this take." Yes, Trey, I'm not. I'm not ideologically possessed like you are. Um, um, but I really would have liked to see what the other counseling students had to say about this. And um, one of the reasons I want Fountain of Comfort um, to be successful is so that it can be a voice for reasonable policy regarding mental health, and reasonable discussion, public discussion about these things, and trustworthy discussion, right? Um, Unfortunately, we don't have that. Okay, I am going to shut up now. If anybody wants to join, they can. Thank you very much, Racco. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hey,
Hello.
how's Chick-fil-A doing?
You know what's going? How's what happened after Trevor?
Uh, Nothing happened apparently.
Okay. I mean, like, did you pick up something new? I heard you did
Oh,
something.
I mean, I'm busy doing. I have two internships right now, so like,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
It frankly, I mean, they kind of did me a favor because I kind of felt bad about wanting to quit. But as I was writing my resignation letter, they claimed um, I did something wrong, which was total bullshit, um,
Mm,
and ended my volunteer status.
mm,
Whatever.
yeah.
So I still have the draft I was writing as I received their email.
Mm.
So, did you actually have any thoughts about this case? Did you actually listen to the
Dude,
stream?
I just tuned in. Like, yeah. I'm still in my work clothes because I just got off.
And you got a phone call. I'm wondering if that's his parents or like,
But
was that your parents like, get off Jacob's stream?
no, I got this coupon for like Nectar or whatever, and it says for
What's
Woodbury. Nectar is like this they call it a juice bar. It's like Jamba Juice pretty much, but for rich white girls. Um, I got a coupon, so I'm trying to see where it is, you know. I'm pretty sure they're going out of business, but like, yeah.
aha? Okay, if we're not actually going to talk about
Give me the rundown. Give me the
this thing,
rundown.
I already gave everybody the rundown.
Okay, well,
The There are conservative parents who are losing their minds because they're losing their minds and they've lost their minds.
just what for? What for?
So, it's a long story. You should listen to the video.
Okay, all right.
I actually think you should, in fact, listen to the video, and I think it's an important story, but at the same time, I kind of wish like people who actually looked into the information would be the ones talking about it as opposed to a bunch of people screaming on the internet on Twitter and raging over things they don't.
Don't we all? Huh?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if like people on the internet talked about stuff they actually knew about?
Yeah, when when the messianic age comes, we'll all have perfect information, and the Keynesian models will actually work.
There we go.
In the meantime, we're stuck with Austrian economic theory. But hey.
No, we are
Yes.
not stuck with
Yes.
We're
Yes.
stuck with Chicago model. Okay. Jonathan says the stream does not make it clear. That's unfortunate. Although, I mean, I tried to make it clear. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to end the stream because
Okay.
nobody but me seems to care.